Well, welcome to the podcast. My name is Father Bill W. I'm an Episcopal priest. I live here in Austin, Texas, and have had the gift of recovery through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous for just over 50 years now. And for that, I'm very, very grateful to AA and to so many of the people who have helped me along on my journey. Purpose of these podcasts, as most of you guys know, is to kind of go deeper into the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, into the spirituality that underlies it. And in this new series that we're starting, we're going to kind of get into the psychology. What is the psychology that, if you understand it, how can that help you to find a more full recovery? That it's not just about drinking or drugging, but that it's kind of going on a journey, and that's what we're here to talk about. So I invite you, if you haven't done so, please go to our website. It's called Two-Way Prayer, and it'll teach you the form of prayer that they did in early AA and back in the Oxford group. And want to thank our donors who kind of keep the lights on here and have been very generous to us all along the way. So as I say, we're starting a new series, and it's going to be called The Inner World, going into the inner world. And I've invited an old friend of mine. His name is Father Mike Falls. Mike and I go back, I don't know, 20 years or so, I think, and our paths have kept crossing, and we've kind of journeyed together on some of this. And he kind of opened the door for me for much of this inner world. And for that, I'm very grateful to him. And I think he's got a very powerful message to convey to people in recovery. So, like I said, Mike is also an Episcopal priest, but not your usual kind of Episcopal priest. Mike started off as a Dallas Cowboy, and either went up or down from there. I'm not sure which direction he was going in, but he's you're going to love him. He's got a lot to teach us, and Mike, I really appreciate your taking the time to come and join with us in this series. And perhaps you could begin by, telling us how you found your way inside. I know a little bit of your background. I know some of the family history that you came out of in Minnesota there, and I don't think they were deep into the inner world. So tell us how you started that journey, Mike.
Well, unless you're calling the drinking world, the inner world. But I had a family of drinkers, and and I've never been an alcoholic, but I relate to them because that whole process. And but it's a strange way I got to my inner world. I had a father who was born. He very much old Polish, from the old Polish background, and his mother was really into teaching the catechism to everywhere we lived in the early days. I never did know her, but she was very powerful. My dad, as far as I know, never said the name of Jesus or anything holy his whole life, and but he buried this. This is one of the ways to the inner world I'm going to be talking about. Is Jung says that what you bury, my father buried all these religious feelings and whatever, and guess who picks them up is the children. And in my case, I was the child who picked up these things, and I'm walking around like in sixth grade. I'm going by churches as I walk, downtown Bemidji from the at the you know, lunchtime from school, and I'd walk by this Roman Catholic church and see people dipping into the font, you know, and making the sign of the cross. And I was just attracted and fascinated by that. And I didn't know where it was coming from or whatever. And so that's how I got a lot of that stuff funneled in, but it was all buried. And and I had to really of course, I've dreamed about doing all this stuff and fantasized, and I love music, and I would think of all the old great songs. I'm 88 years old, so I remember a lot of the old, you know, syrupy things, and the syrupier they were, and finding true love and all this here and that. But actually, I was scared to death if I found somebody, but if they were, they like me or not. But finding, you know, getting in touch with that and doing it. And then when I was playing football, I'm always on Sunday afternoons. So, but he would get us all together on Sunday mornings, and the people that were Catholic, they arranged for us to go and get us here. I never thought of anything spiritual. But he would say, anybody that's Catholic, I'm going to take you, we'll go send you to mass and have communion before.
This is the coach? This is the coach?
This is the coach, yeah.
Right.
And so, and I always thought, golly, you know, something in me wanted to go and for communion, just like, you know, with the and I kept wondering what that was. And so I had this subliminally carrying around these hints, you know, and yeah, there's a quote that says, "A hint is a possibility come from God. Follow it. He'll let you know if he doesn't want you to follow it anymore." You know, so, but I get all these hints, but I never did anything, you know, and headed to the bar and chased a woman and what, you know, whatever. But anyway, so that was my undergirding thing. And so when I got older and after football, and I just got out of football once, that wasn't who I was. I never did like football, but I played 2 years as a starting guard for the Dallas Cowboys. And when I was done with that second year, you know, there's something inside of me, my inner world, something just says, get the hell out of here. Bill, one of the things, it might be a good time to kind of start us off is to I was like around 30 when
so the midlife, we're having a midlife crisis here. Is that it?
See,
all right.
This is what happened.
Well, I usually ask folks to kind of bring along a quotation that they like and give us something to bounce off of. And Mike didn't disappoint me. He sent me something from the therapist Brene Brown, and I'm going to read that and might set the tone for Mike's midlife crisis that he's going to get into here. So this is what Brene writes. She says, "I think midlife is when the universe gently places her hands upon your shoulders, pulls you close, and whispers in your ear, 'I'm not screwing around. It's time.' All of this pretending and performing, these coping mechanisms that you've developed to protect yourself from feeling inadequate and getting hurt has to go. Your armor is preventing you from growing into your gifts. I understand that you needed these protections when you were small. I understand that you believed your armor could help you secure all of the things you needed to feel worthy of love and belonging, but you're still searching. and you're more lost than ever. Time is growing short. There are unexplored adventures ahead of you. You can't live the rest of your life worried about what other people think. You were born worthy of love and belonging. Courage and daring are coursing through you. You were made to live and love with your whole heart. It's time to show up and be seen. So that's some of the stuff that was going on inside, eh?
Well, that's some of the stuff that was going on inside of me, and I didn't have any idea what to do with it, uh, and yet I wanted to, but I kept, and then I had John Kennedy was assassinated, in my when I was like in my late 20s, and I had been out and I had gotten married for the first time, and tried in the working world, and I didn't really like that too well, and I was pretty bad at it, and whatever. But anyway, Kennedy was assassinated, and I had a great adoration for this guy. Maybe it's because he had, who was the blonde bombshell that
Marilyn Monroe?
Marilyn Monroe, and I didn't, or something. I don't know, but I love, the Peace Corps, those idealists. There's the idealism again, from the spiritual part of me, and so and there was they were doing a service, a memorial service for him at an Episcopal church, which was 2 blocks up the street. And and a friend of ours was an Episcopalian, and geez, boy, you need to go up and go to this. You're going to like this priest up there. So anyway, I was, just looking for something inside me. And so I ended up going up there to that routine. And I was never so moved by anything. It just hit me. And the priest that was there was one of the most down-to-earth, beautiful people I'd ever met in my life. And he just took me under his wing. And I started going to church there, and but my whole family. I had married Sandy with 3 kids, and we all started going to church. And I just really got into it.
Let's get back to this midlife crisis that's going on, that Brene is talking about in her quote, and that you're experiencing when the Dallas Cowboy thing had kind of played itself out, and was and some voice was almost speaking to you from the inside that was calling you to go deeper. What was happening there, and how did that? How'd you answer
Well, it's
that?
really hard to explain, except that it was the inner world saying, this is not where you belong.
Mm.
You got to move on. You got to do something.
You could feel that. You could feel that stirring.
Yeah,
Right?
I did.
Yeah.
And it was just coming from a very deep part of me. I knew it was. And it wasn't in a, kind of a pious way, or, nothing to do with Jesus or the church or anything else. It just was the work in that inner world. And Kennedy was, when he was assassinated, see, that was like that again. And I had to go up and go to a church and something. Yeah. And I just related to that priest, and then I went to a course. There was a program. It's a 10-hour program. You went there about 20 miles away to another Episcopal church, and 5 hours each Saturday. And so I would go there, and this, there was a program called the Narrow Ridge that was coming up that they were doing. And do I dare to be myself in a world that is at best uncertain?
Mm.
And I went up there, and it was a group of people, and we all just had discussions, and we moved from one kind of an insights and talked about poems and whatever all the way along. And at the end of the whole workshop, which I just really got into, it was what I was really looking for. And
something deep inside of you was responding. You were
yeah,
hearing, this is real and it's
yeah,
possible.
yeah, it was, I never imagined, that I would feel this way or get tuned or be open to just move into it.
Yeah.
And there was a part of a poem at the end of that program that virtually changed my whole outlook on life. And it was a saying said by a rabbi named Zuzia. And just before he dies on his deathbed, he looks up to this person next to him and says, "In the world to come, I will not be asked, why was I not Moses? I will be asked, why was I not Zuzia?"
Mm.
And I mean, that hit me.
Struck you.
Yeah, it probably hit you too, Bill,
Sure.
because knowing you, as my friend. But it's, and that saying has stuck with me. I'm not supposed to be Jesus. I'm not supposed to be this, and to go to seminary.
But you're supposed to be yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what this voice is. This voice is telling us you're not yourself.
I'm not
You're
supposed
not
to
the
be
self
Jesus.
you could be.
All of us Christians, you try to be nice like Jesus. Well, number one, Jesus wasn't too nice. He didn't get on crucified on a cross for being nice.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
He was himself. He confronted people, and he was. But that's what I realized, and I didn't have a choice. But I don't know if you relate with that, Bill, where you're just you're.
I was a searcher. I was looking to fit in. I was doing acid with my sister one night, and she said, she was describing me, and she said, "Bill, you're like, I see all of these round holes out there in the universe, and you're a square peg going from hole to hole to hole." I said, "Oh, Donna, that's beautiful." Someone had named what it felt like. I didn't fit in. I was looking to fit in, and it wasn't happening. I went in search of that. And my alcohol was, of course, very much wrapped up in that.
I didn't have a clue while I was in seminary, just like I just read that. And I don't know if you experienced that or not, that you just, it was something that you had to do and you didn't even know why you had to do it, And to me, that's how the spiritual world talks to us.
Mm.
And it comes from, it's built into you when you're born. Oh, isn't that freaky? It's called DNA.
Kind of a spiritual DNA. All right. So this is some of your background.
Yeah.
You've it's weird. There's no question about it. You've got your weird credentials. They're in good shape. But I want to hear a little bit about this inner world. And so I know you did a lot of workshops with Mike. You went around the country with him. You've helped a lot of people, particularly a lot of young people, go inside and find their way. A lot of young people, kind of like that quote says, they're lost. They're trying to be who they're not.
Right.
And then at some point it falls apart. And that's not a bad thing when it falls apart.
It's supposed to fall apart. See,
it has to fall apart.
That's what this Brene Brown that you read, Bill.
Yeah.
And well, it just freaked me out when a friend of mine sent me one of those. And golly, it's but it's stop it. Your armor is preventing you from growing into your gifts.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'm telling jokes, and doing all this stuff and being the clever person or whatever. I tried all that stuff, and being real is where it's at. I mean, it's
Big Book says the great reality is within. And it's not just going in and finding God within, it's finding yourself within, and then finding how that self is connected to God.
That's exactly right. That's your God-given self.
Capital S, Jung would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, capital S.
That's your God-given self. And see, and that's in the DNA, you're the special person. You're born to be who we are. And look at the route that you took, through your alcoholism. But look at mine. I'm a tender soul. I'm not I don't have the mind of a football player, good grief, but I love the game, and I love what it did for me. I didn't love the game. But here's a poem, Bill, and again, it's about the size of Brene's.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a poem by Christopher Morley. In fact, I'll send you a copy of this poem if you'd like a little later on. But it's the greatest poem ever known is one all poets have outgrown. The poetry innate, untold, of being only 4 years old, still young enough to be a part of nature's great impulsive heart, born comrade of bird and beast and tree, and as unself-conscious as a bee, and yet with lovely reason skilled each day new paradise to build, elate explorer of each sense, without dismay, without pretense. See, how about living without pretense? 4-year-old can do it unless he's taught some other ridiculous thing. In your unstained, transparent eyes, there is no conscience, no surprise. Life's queer conundrums you accept, your strange divinity still kept. Being that now absorbs all harmonious unit perplexing bits of contradictions and of wits. In life that sets all things in rhyme may make you poet too in time. But there were days, O tender elf, when you were poetry itself.
So this brings us to what you call the kid.
Yeah.
The inner child. And I want you to kind of map out that world for us. So there is this tender elf, this inner child, this kid who's born with a destiny, shall we say, a destiny to become who he or she is intended to be, and we get lost.
Yeah.
Part
Well,
of that is the persona, the
yeah.
mask that we put on, that society teaches us to put on. Hey,
I call it this way, is that that kid in every one of us is given, I love this phrase, the soul's code for you.
hmm.
It's your that 4-year-old kid. And what it takes is parents not to direct them into doing math or rewarding them for this or disciplining for that, is listening to what they feel. That's the code. If you ask them, what do you feel? What excites you most about your life? You know, not, you don't direct them. If they get in trouble, you direct them. But it's, you want to know what they feel in anything. What do you feel when somebody gets hurt? And you want to magnify that and to say, I love you. And here's what I mean by that. I just love who you are.
Is the kid kind of at the center of the inner world?
Yeah. It's that's who you really are. That's your mark.
That's your mark. That's your DNA.
That's your DNA is right from you're born. Everybody in the world has a different DNA.
Hmm.
Another way to look at it is the lie detector. You know, you fail a lie detector test and you say something and it goes against your whole inner body. Just think about that.
Well, some people credit Jung with the development of that. That when you know, word association tests, that there's something triggered when you're asked these questions, and you don't answer truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
Afraid of the truth. The ego or the persona, let's say, is afraid of the truth. Is that fair to say? That doesn't want to be real. It wants to.
Yeah, it's because you don't trust yourself. You don't know how to live. When you learn to trust yourself, you'll know how to live. But I never did, couldn't trust myself most of my life until I had that encounter with Kennedy being assassinated, and you got to be shocked. But this is, the armor is preventing you from growing into your gifts. I understand you needed protection when you were small. I understand that you believed in armor would help secure all the things you needed, and and I had a whole front act. I remember a second grade teacher, Miss Kell, I'll never forget. She's a black woman, the first black woman I've ever seen. I lived on a farm outside of Bemidji, and we bussed into town and went to the teachers' college. And so I was talking to her one day about this or that, and I was putting on an act of some sort. I forget what it was. But she says, she looked at me and she says, Mickey, are you putting on a show to kind of impress me? And of course, I'll never forget the rush that just moved over my whole body. I was being seen, caught right in the act.
Right.
Never forget it. And I've been thankful for her ever since I've gotten and found my own inner world, But you have to be thrown in it in a profound way
why is it important for the alcoholic or the addict to go inside? And maybe also, why is it important for us to find our inner child? What's the consequence if we don't? And what's the benefit if we
You
do?
live an empty life of pretense. You know, that's what the word pretense in here really sticks out to me. In that, each day, a sense without dismay, without pretense. You know, you live free, and you just stand up for yourself. There's one of my favorite quotes that I've come across in my journey, is that you not only have the right, but you have the obligation to let someone else know how what they're doing or saying is affecting you. Now, is that a beauty or not? And I follow that. I really do.
There's an innocence to the kid, and there's energy, huge amounts of energy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and this is one of the things that alcoholics and addicts, when we get sober, it's like the alcohol and the drugs were the vehicle that got me to life. I mean, I experienced life through that, you know, and it worked for a while, but then it doesn't work.
Be extroverted and tell people how you feel.
Well, I didn't even know how I felt.
Uh,
But now the great fear is, okay, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drug. But if I don't do that, I'm not going to live. You know? And so this is why the journey is so important.
yeah.
It's to go back there, find the kid, nurture the kid, bring the kid along, you know, so that you can become real and alive, and the kid carries our energy.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it because it's your purpose that's is fulfilled. You feel fulfilled. You feel completed when you be and do who you are.
That's really the meaning of soul, isn't it?
It really is. And there's one of my favorite quotes in the whole world is a black priest meeting up with a black guy meeting up with a Catholic priest at some kind of a feeding or free feeding or something. And tell me about your spiritual life. The priest is asking him, I found something that fits me. What do I do? And he says, you got to be who you is, because if you ain't who you is who you ain't. And that's kind of my theme song. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now the way to exercise, to get to know, is that you can help your kid, find your kid. You can find out what he's feeling, who he is, different situations and whatever. And you ask him, you give him a pen or a pencil, and big thing, placing to just scribble, you know, and you just ask your kid, your adult, ask the kid inside of you, what do you feel when somebody says something wrong to you, or you know that they don't like you, and you say, just answer and start writing instantly. You just with your non-dominant hand, and let the kid tell you what he's feeling.
So if you're right-handed, you use your left hand.
Right. Yeah.
When the kid answers, use your left hand.
Right. Yeah, your non-dominant hand.
Right.
And but you got to do it spontaneously. You
Absolutely. It's just like two-way prayer. It's active imagination, you know? I mean, when I met you, I had been doing two-way prayer for about 10 years. And that's the process. The process is to find the God inside, to find the voice who wants me to be who I am and is encouraging me. And I listen to that. But then when I met you, Mike, it was another layer, another level that I needed to go to, that the kid was still stuck inside.
Right.
And I'm convinced that with the people who do two-way prayer, you do that for a while and you find safety. You find that there is a voice, a power that is unconditional love. Okay. But the work is not done there. It's not completed.
Yeah, you can't settle. You can't settle for sweetness and light and goodness and all this here, because there's a lot of anger in there. You don't listen to me. You don't pay
From the kid. You're talking about the kid.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Angry little sucker.
Oh, hell yeah. And boy, when you really get to the gold is when you get to where his energy is pissed off.
Right.
Yeah, there's the real self coming out.
Yeah.
It's like,
and when you really get to God, it's when you're able to say, hey,
yeah, I get
I'm scared.
Yeah, you're out.
I'm lost.
Listening to me.
Yeah, I mean, the more real you get, the more real is the answer you'll receive.
There's where the gold is.
Yeah. Jung says the way you treat the unconscious is the way the unconscious will treat you.
Yeah, but
you got to be honest.
It's good to get a picture. I've got a picture of my kid who's 11 months, and he's got this incredible inquisitive look on his face. And he's sitting like this, Bill, and his hand is right on his knee like mine is now, and it's just in the same proportion, my big hand, where you can see the size of my hand. But see, I just relate with him, in this picture, and I write, and ask him to write. And boy, I just get all kinds of stuff.
The goal is to become whole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that the inside.
And your kid knows who you are when you're whole.
He knows.
He's 4 years old. He knows the whole story. Basically, fundamentally, he knows who you are and who you're not. He doesn't know about politics or, whatever, but he knows about who he is and what he likes and what he doesn't like and who he likes and what he likes you to do and what he wants to tell you, how he's different than other people, And it's a really good exercise. I do it quite a bit.
It's a really important relationship too, isn't it?
Oh, hell, with yourself.
It's everything. It's everything.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're going to, I think in some future episodes, we're going to invite some people on to come and share some of their writings with their inner kids and see how that opened them up to a wholly new level of intimacy and energy and recovery.
Yeah.
So
beauty.
Absolutely. Well, this getting real is where it's at, and it's a lifelong journey, and you've been at it for a long time, Mike, and you've traveled the road. You went inside, and I know you've helped an awful lot of people along the way, young people in particular, to find themselves and then become themselves.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of us are challenged. A lot of us had lousy childhoods, but the good news is it's not too late. That kid is still in there. That kid is waiting, and it's waiting for us to take the initiative.
Yeah.
And invite him out and nurture him and give him the stuff that he didn't get.
Be weird.
Let them be weird. Okay. Well, listen, Mike, I want to thank you for sharing your experience and wisdom with the group, and forever grateful for the things that you've taught me along the way. So, and
Well,
thank you for coming. I want to thank you guys for listening. I hope you learned a few things along the way, and come back, and we're going to start visiting with some folks who have done this inner child work and listen to some of their kids and what they have to say to them. So thanks so much, and God bless.